Hello, Guardians. Welcome to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast here on Boss Rush Games. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Derrigan. Alongside me, as always, is our lore archivist, the fantastic, the amazing Josh.
I like that. It's like I'm being introduced to the circus.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, my night has been a circus.
Your night has been a three-ring circus.
Well, I didn't even start with this, okay? Here's how my night started, Josh, okay? I got home like an hour late from work today. Had to stay over a little bit. Not a huge deal, right? Whatever. I stay over a lot, okay? I get home, take a shower, okay? Take a shower, take a good shower. Then, like, you ever like feel like you feel fine in the shower, and then like when you're almost done with your shower, you have that like oh shit moment, and you have to poop.
Yes.
So I had an after shower poop, and I hate those.
Oh, you always want it before. Always before.
Yeah, and I still feel dirty.
You feel like you have to take another shower after.
Yeah. So that happened. Then like work fed us today. We had pizza and wings at work today, which was great. It was awesome. But so tonight for dinner, I just had like a bowl of cereal. Aldi's version of Frosted Mini Wheats. Pretty good. Emptied the box. This is where the night starts to take a turn, Josh. Okay. My kid now likes Frosted Mini Wheats, but the box was empty. Now, you know what an empty box of Frosted Mini Wheats is like. It's not really empty.
Yes.
It is not really empty. It's got all those little shredded parts at the bottom. Some like sugar chunks. My kid comes in my office with the empty box and just dumps the shredded Mini Wheats everywhere. God. So I had to run sweeper in my office. I'm like, okay, well, that sucks, but whatever. So I sit down finally after dinner. We're watching Monday's episode of Dancing with the Stars because we're late. Okay, me and my wife just hanging out, watching some DWTS. Okay, it's a good time. It was fine. Bath night. Kid likes to splash. Kid splashing water everywhere. I'm like, okay. Just got to get through this. And then my monitor came. My brand new monitor came. And I'm like, yes, psyched. Gonna hook it up. A little bit late for the show tonight. It's okay. A little bit late. It's okay. Now, I don't know if I'm really running it, if they sent me the wrong one or what, but somehow I'm running, I think I'm running stuff at 4K and 120 hertz for some reason. I have a HDMI 2.1 cable that they sent with the monitor, which was very nice of them. But now it's like the like I told you before we started recording. It's like I can't tell if it's like the full screen DVD and the Blu-ray player type thing. I just don't know. Like some things look fantastic and other things are like, I don't understand how this is looking right now. I don't know. I think I'm going to have to talk to Colonel Panic about this because he's the one that recommended this monitor to me. And
he is the man to talk to, not me.
Yeah. So, yeah. But Halo 2 looked real pretty. And, Destiny looks great too. So that's where I'm at. That's been my night. And now my office is a mess because I decided to build this monitor 10 minutes before we were supposed to start, and it took me longer. So, how's your night going, Josh? Is it good? Great? Good?
Yeah, man. It's going good. Had the pre-show nap, had some cereal. I'm good to go.
What kind of cereal? What kind of cereal you got over there, Josh?
Oh, dude, Captain Crunch berries, man.
Is it Oops All Berries or just Captain Crunch with Crunch Berries?
It's the Captain Crunch berries.
Nice. I'm not a fan of the
original.
I'm not a fan of the Oops All Berries. I like a little bit of the plain yellow squares in there. And it with just a little hint of the berries.
I like the Upsal berries, but you need that right mixture.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
you simply can't do it otherwise.
Did you ever have the chocolate ones? The chocolate Captain Crunch? That's like...
No, I had the ones that looked like little donuts, though.
Oh, what? Little donuts?
Yeah, they looked like little donuts. They're like crunchy donuts or something. I don't know what they were called, but they were pretty gross. I did not like them. They were sickeningly sweet.
Well,
so,
I don't know.
Unsubscribe. Did not like.
Yeah, did not like. Cancel the donut cereal. Cancel it.
Pretty much. It was like a worse version of Oreo O's, which is already pretty bad.
It's fair. Oreo O's are not. They sound great in theory, but they are not great. It's like Cookie Crisp too, you know.
Yeah, Cookie Crisp was awful, dude. That's
it sounds great, but like I'm not into soggy cookies. It turns out, you know.
It was fine when we were kids, I guess, but the older I've gotten and the less interested in getting diabetes that I've been, I've liked it less and less.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't want diabetes either. So.
No, not at all.
Oh, that's just the man, I'm seeing things on this monitor that I've never seen before. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm just seeing all kinds of like colors and scratches and not bad scratches, just like I didn't know there was that much detail on that loading screen for Destiny. Just gonna throw that out there. Also, Josh, I made an announcement this week.
You did make an announcement. What was that announcement, Corey?
Yeah. So
while you're making this, I'm gonna reboot Skype. It's like popping in and out for me real bad.
Okay.
So keep talking.
I did make an announcement this week as Josh goes away, and now you just see the the Skype screen. I am stepping down as host of Nintendo Power Block. It's 220 episodes, I think, is a good run. In about 2 weeks, I'm handing complete duties over to Edward Varnell. Everybody likes Ed. Everybody knows Ed was born to host a Nintendo show and do Nintendo stuff. He is what you would call the Nintendo champion of Nintendo Power Block, or of Boss Rush games. So yeah, I'm giving it to him and Celeste, and I'll still be on. I'll still be producing, but I just Whoa.
I accidentally called you. I thought I could rejoin.
Whoa. We heard some...
I'm sorry.
Oh, now I gotta move this Skype. Gotta close this Skype window. Gotta move this Skype window over here. Josh's face is all over the place. This is it's all right. You know what? We're gonna leave it in. We're gonna leave it in, guys. We're just gonna leave it in. Here we go. There you are, Josh. Hello, Josh.
Hi. Hello. Sorry, you were cutting in and out. I was hearing like every fourth word, and it said I had a poor network connection, which was really weird because I had full bars. So
yeah, I also have full bars, and it also says I have poor connection in some places. So
it was really weird because it was running great on Twitch, just not on our ends. So,
yeah. So,
anyways,
but like I said, I'm stepping down as host of Nintendo Power Block. I think, in order to put Boss Rush Games in a better position to succeed as a group, I think that the things I kind of want to focus on and the things that, I want to I'm going to be honest with you, Josh. I feel like the last few weeks or so, I have been kind of slacking on the Destiny front. I've been kind of... I don't know. I feel like I've been kind of not up to date on the things that we're about to talk about that I need to be in.
Yeah.
Being host of Arsenal X, and I think we all know that Ed is built for hosting Nintendo. Period.
Just a little bit. We love you, Ed.
He is the Nintendo champion of the group. So I mean, he's been co-hosting with me since the very beginning, and I think it's I think it's time for a changing of the guards over there, especially with, him and Celeste. The feedback about their kind of, what do you call it, chemistry has been off the charts in our emails, and just the reception on Twitter was great when I made the announcement. So
yeah,
and it's going to allow us to kind of focus more on the Xbox side of things and this show, and make them better and change it up a little bit, and so
for sure.
But I'm excited for that direction. I'm still gonna be on it and produce it, right, but it's gonna allow me to be more flexible. Instead of putting together 4 shows a week and produce 4 more, I'm gonna focus on 2 and make those 2 the best shows they can be, and help out with the rest of them when I can. So
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that was kind of it. That was the announcement. I know Destiny people probably don't really care about Nintendo all that much, but and I know it's a different audience, but
it's a show that's very near and dear to your heart, though.
Yeah, I mean it's the reason why Boss Rush Games exists. Honestly, I mean,
yeah,
it started with Nintendo Power Block a long time ago. I mean, that's the show I was doing when we met. So
yeah,
let's be honest, it's been around for a while. So, but anyways, let's get into some Destiny talk. Josh,
we are still recording, right? The
of course
audio.
we are. Yeah.
Okay. Making sure. I didn't know if that would change since we changed calls.
Oh no, it's
okay.
Got it. Okay, we're good. I'm just recording the desktop audio, so
cool.
It also got your calling me back audio in there. I'll edit that out, but I think it's time to talk some Destiny, Josh.
I think it's time to talk some Destiny, too.
There's a lot of interesting things happening, a lot of cool things happening, a lot of speculation about the raid due to the Collector's Edition.
Yeah, I mean, the raid and some very long-term story implications in the Collector's Edition. I guess let's just start there tonight.
Okay.
We'll get into the TWAB between this and the big lore corner we've got for the Drifter tonight. But these are kind of our 3 things we're going to tackle. It's the Collector's Edition, the sandbox changes, and the story of the Drifter. As much as we can get through tonight, we should be able to do all of it. So the Collector's Edition shipped out early this year. Instead of arriving right around release date, they listened to feedback from the last couple of years and got them there a few weeks ahead of time, presumably so people got their digital codes and didn't have any issues. In there is a letter from the Exo Stranger, and there's a hidden report from a member of Ikora's Hidden. I had to compile this information from a couple different sources, so some of it may be a little bit out of order with what we're going to go through, but the long and the short of it is just some bullet points that we've got here. Before we get into this, the report that we get here is from Agent CHA-319. As we know, everybody in the universe that works at the Vanguard or is an enemy of the Vanguard has a code name kind of applied to them. This is speculated to be Chalco Young, who is a hunter and is one of Ikora's closest friends. We have had her mentioned in the base Destiny 2 game, in Curse of Osiris, and in Forsaken. This is one of Ikora's closest allies. We've never actually seen members of the Hidden on screen, with the exception of Eris. But she is presumably reporting directly from Europa when she writes this report. So among the things that we learn in here from the Hidden report, the Vanguard has been forbidding travel to Europa for quite some time now, and it's heavily implied when we first hear about Europa. Well, one of the earlier instances of getting Europa mentioned, back in Joker's Wild, I believe, that the Awoken are also patrolling Europa, not letting people go there. The records of the planet itself, or the moon really, are very, very redacted. And that this might be part of maintaining the interdict. Europa has never been terraformed by the Traveler or humanity, and is still extremely dangerous. There is ocean life under the ice, very similar to Titan or Enceladus. We haven't really heard much about Enceladus since the Ace of Spades quest. That's where a lot of us assumed the Deepstone Crypt would be at, and not in Europa itself. But we're circle back to this in just a minute. There is a hostile planetary defense asset from the Golden Age shooting down those who attempt to investigate it, but it is less hostile to the Eon series of ships. The interesting thing to note here, the Eon series were originally designed by L.C. Bray, by the good old Exo Stranger.
Is that confirmed, or is that still a rumor?
It's all but confirmed, actually, within the contents of the collector's edition. We're gonna get to it in just a moment. When we get to the Stranger's Letter, this is why I weighed bringing it up. At this point, obviously, if you're listening to this, you're all in on the spoilers for the collector's edition. But we did openly speculate about a month ago in a lore corner. Is Elsie really Anna Bray's sister? Is she the other Bray sister? It is all but confirmed in this collector's edition that she is, and that is presumably going to play a major part, not just in the story, but in the raid as well. We'll get to that in just a moment. We have a couple more minor things from this. A Vex presence has been detected in a Braytech facility on Europa. The Chaco theorizes they are not present for conversion, but as a strike force. And they need to be dealt with fairly soon. Chaco also believes that Zur may have been created from a body recovered from Europa. We know that the Nine and the Vex and the Fallen all have some intense interests on Europa from what we've been finding in these lore findings lately. They specifically say there are no confirmations of Ahamkara or other similar beings on Europa. Whenever things like this get mentioned in these collector's materials, because we've had things confirmed in collector's editions before that have ended up playing a role a couple years down the road. Like, for example, things from Cade's journal from the Taken King and materials from, I believe, the core Destiny 2 collector's edition are just now coming into play. Specifically, there was a map in Cade's journal with the Taken King collector's edition that I believe is very strongly resembles the map of Europa that we actually explore. Looking to see what else we need. Mithrax, who has a VIP designation.
Mithrax.
Yes, is actually officially working with the Vanguard at this point. He is relaying reports to the Hidden and to the Vanguard. The Golden Age station is a no-go zone for the Fallen due to something that cannot be stolen from residing there. It is speculated that this is the Deepstone Crypt, and we just don't have it confirmed yet. This is where it gets kind of spicy. We've thought for a long time, and the confirmation of the Deepstone Crypt all but confirmed this, as well as the Return of the Stranger, that this would be the expansion where we would finally focus on the Exos. The agents of the Hidden, specifically Chaco, theorizes that this is the moon of Jupiter that Exos see in their dreams. It's said that all Exos come from and where all Exos ultimately die. The agents feel like something is wrong on Europa based on their own instincts and on lore that they have discovered. And that honestly, we need to be storming Europa at this point. They basically say they cite the indirect on the moon 5 years before it had proven useful in resulting in some key Guardian victories, even if it also hastened the arrival of Oryx and attracted Gaul to the system. And Ikora basically says at the end that they're going to take the agent's reports into account, but that they're not going to remove the ban on travel to Europa. So clearly something is going to happen that beckons us there. We've already been told, beckoned by the darkness, and Eris herself have basically said, you need to go to Europa. You need to find what's there. And this is probably going to be where our alliances with the Vanguard kind of start to fracture a little bit, in all frankness. because we already know that Eris and the Drifter go there to meet with the Stranger. And in the new story trailer this week, we see the Stranger monitoring Varix. She's actually in the same room as him while Varix is sending a distress message about what Aramis is doing in the story trailer. The Stranger's letter. There's only a little bit of information here, but the biggest thing is it is confirmed. Elsie is officially the Exo Stranger. It took an assumption that we've had for about 3 years now and made it full on canon. Like I said, a lot of people in the lore community have theorized this would be the case since Warmind. It just confirms it. Other tidbits, I had to go back and find where I had sent this to a friend of mine. It's confirmed the artifact that is in the middle of the PvP map Anomaly is actually an artifact of the darkness and has specifically reached out to Clovis Bray himself. And he becomes obsessed with it. It leads him to discover the pyramids or the pyramid ship on Europa. And ultimately, him and his team build a Vex Gate. And they send proxies through. These proxies end up on something that we're not sure if it's a Vex homeworld or if it's a Vex construct that they end up in. Only that when they look up, like the stars are completely different. It's not our actual solar system. And he describes seeing metal architecture in the fluid. And we find out the darkness beckoned him and his proxies. He becomes completely and totally obsessed with following the call of the darkness. And it kind of is implied that he may have used the darkness and the Vex Radiolorian fluid to create the first exos. In the story trailer, we see a lot of what look at primitive exo bodies laying in piles as the Guardians walk by them. And that the theory is that Clovis, in his chase for immortality, created not only the first exos, but transferred Elsie's consciousness into one as well when she was dying. And somehow she survived either this long or she's been resurrected by the light. We don't quite know what's going on there. But she basically said Clovis is her grandfather. And she says he conducted hideous experiments using the darkness, and that she ultimately aided him in these experiments. And Clovis strongly believed he was the one that would lead humanity to future and to salvation. She ends with urging us to trust our ghost when it comes to wielding the darkness, and says that we must remember we will live with our choices forever. This is a lot. This is an awful lot to take in. I know that was a big information dump I just kind of threw out there. I wanted to get through all that before we talked about it. The Stranger's letter for me really is where I think we get an indication of what the raid will be about when we go into Deepstone Crypt.
Yeah.
I do believe it'll be Fallen based, especially after the trailers that we saw this week. But I think Aramis may be a red herring. I think we'll get hints, very strong hints, in the story and in maybe some adventures about Clovis, and maybe start digging into the exo creation. But I think, and there's going to have to be a whole lot of setup if this ends up being the case. I think Aramis will probably be taken down mid-raid, and maybe the last third of it is us fighting primitive exos and taking down Clovis, finally. I'm falling into the camp because there are camps beginning to be created in raid secrets and in r/Destiny lore, and the belief that we have is that he has survived. Quite frankly, that he's lived this whole time as an exo. Maybe he's been in cryostasis or he's been asleep, but that he is what lurks within the Deepstone Crypt, hence it being an actual crypt, and that the Bray sisters will help us kill him once and for all. That would be just such a wacky thing to do, like to not be fighting a race that we're used to fighting. I mean, it's so easy to throw the Fallen, the Taken, the Hive, the Cabal into a raid as your enemies. What if you had to fight other exos and ultimately fight a more humanoid enemy?
Yeah.
Or if he has like, some sort of like a mech battle suit, similar to Insurrection Prime. Like there's so many possibilities here, I think. Of course,
Or
watch
like,
me.
or
Oh,
like,
go ahead.
I mean, I was just thinking like the thing that I thought of just now, if not the mech suit from that's Insurrection Prime, but the Siva, like the final boss in Axis and
Yeah,
Wrath of the
yeah.
Machine, not necessarily Siva, but like he's built more onto himself and made this weird, like, I guess exosuit, but you know what I mean. Like I think that would be really interesting.
hmm I really like this. The the Fallen have referred in the past to something that cannot be stolen from. They've referred to the darkness as that. It's very likely that Mithrax could be talking about the darkness as infesting. That he talks about darkness zone more specifically. So it's kind of funny that that's now like a canonical thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if we go into zones like that in Europa, maybe we're forced to use stasis power or stasis weapons or something. It would be kind of a weird mechanic, but I'm not sure. I do think it's a pretty big deal that we have this, and I like that they mentioned that there's something in the frozen ocean. One of the biggest complaints about Titan was you could see the Leviathans, but we never did anything with them. What if one of those ends up coming in, maybe during the crypt raid or during a strike or something? We have to take down one of the ocean leviathans that's been like infected with darkness or something. I think there's just so many cool things that are brought up in here, even if it's just a little nod to the fact that we obsessed over that for 3 years, only for nothing to come of it. I still think that that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other little tidbits in here that weren't in the initial summary I read. It basically confirms Gaul got the light suppression technology that he used against the Traveler and against the Guardians. That he got that from the Dreadnought. See, more mistakes. We just left the Dreadnought chilling there.
Of course.
This is going to come back to bite us even more. I'm telling you, it's a big mistake.
Oryx is dead. We'll just leave a ship floating out here around, whatever. This is terrible.
Yeah. And it's being theorized currently on Raid Secrets and Destiny lore that because one of the biggest mysteries around the Exos was the Deepstone Crypt. The Long Slow Whisper was the other thing. Basically, that when you're an Exo and you die, you have to fight through everything you've ever killed or that you've ever fought against. And it's kind of being thought like maybe that's the next step, that maybe we'll get that revealed, that like, oh, maybe that's the Vex trying to take back control if the Exos really were made with the Radiolorian fluid. That could be really cool to, like, maybe we have to reset the Exos or something. Mithrax being mentioned is a really big deal. Really, really like that. I think that further cements that after Beyond Light, there'll still be some Fallen Stragglers, obviously, but they'll be more akin to just, well, they already are Raiders, but they'll be so fractured they won't have homes, they won't have houses. I think it'll be Mithrax, and if he makes it out alive of this, Varix leading the remainder of the Fallen. So
Varix, yes. Yes.
But yeah, I'm getting increasingly concerned for Varix after seeing the story trailer and some other stuff this week.
Yeah. Well,
we see his legs literally get frozen. What are they going to do? Take his lower arms now too?
I mean, they could. Or his legs. They could have a Darth Maul situation on their hands.
Yeah, I would really love for the ongoing story over this next year and the seasons to be about us building the alliance with Mithrax, helping him build up the House of Light, winning Fallen and Fallen generals to his cause, and maybe seeing Uldren ultimately ally with them, because Varix still does have a very soft spot for Uldren. Yeah. Even though I maintain that Uldren is going to end up being the Cosmodrome vendor. Mm-hmm. I'm very, very curious to see what all of this goes into. I'm very, very, very interested. So
yeah, Yeah, I mean, there's this. I feel like this is going to be the biggest story jump since, since Forsaken. Really.
It pretty much has to be. I mean, I would say that, like, overall as an expansion, it's absolutely going to most likely be on par with Forsaken. I would say in terms of lore, it'll probably be more consequential, personally. Because a lot of the stuff in Forsaken that was lore heavy did not necessarily come from the campaign.
Yeah.
And I feel like this campaign is going to be pretty heavy on that. Not only that, like, they've completely reworked it to where the lore is so much easier to get and obtain and understand for casual players.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's going to be a much bigger emphasis put on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Shadow, like, you could make an argument that Shadowkeep had pretty big jumps. It just mainly had one big twist that we didn't see coming, which was that the pyramid was on the moon.
Yeah.
That it was there. Like, you round that corner for the first time, and you're like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, you're
like they are here. This is terrifying. So the one in Europa is obviously the second one that we found. We are going to get the powers of stasis from there. But the Fallen are going to get it as well. We see Aramis with that darkness shard, and it's a little terrifying.
Yeah. It's crazy, like, just by watching the trailers and stuff. By the way, can I just comment on how amazing their cinematic gameplay trailers are? Anybody who's trying to make a trailer for their game with gameplay in it, but also wants to make it cinematic, needs to watch Bungie trailers.
There is one very quick blink and you miss it shot that people have told me about, but I haven't been able to slow it down enough to see it for myself, since I've only tried to watch it on mobile. There is a shot in there, apparently a split-second shot of the Vex and Guardians, but they're not shooting at each other. They're both shooting at the same thing off-screen, which I'm very curious about, if that's an actual thing or are people just pulling each other's legs on it. I've seen dozens of people swear up and down that they've seen this shot. I personally haven't been able to slow it enough down to see it, but I'm going to try to this week.
I wonder
if I can't get a timestamp for us.
I wonder if, like, I mean, if I'll try to slow it down and watch it too. But if this is true, I wonder if this is going to lead into the Vault coming back. So
that's the next theory,
because the Vex, like, they won't fight us if they need us for their next, whatever, right? I mean, they will use us until they don't need us anymore, right? I mean, that's their whole thing. Is if we're a means to an end, then they'll use us, even if we don't know.
So yeah, I think if the Vex are as involved as we're being told, that one, in the raid, it's very possible that we go through a portal and we end up on that, like, Foundry world that Clovis describes, or that Elsie describes to us about Clovis, which is implied to be one of the universe's oldest stars, and that is presumably where the Vex create their frames at, where they melt down metal to create themselves. That destination just sounds cool as shit. And if we actually get to go to a place like that, I would love it. And that would have to be a raid destination, right? Yeah. You would assume that has to be a raid or a secret third destination.
Yeah.
That is within the game. I don't know if they'll do it now. I feel like that's something that we may visit during the raid and then go there for real during Lightfall.
Yeah.
But we are going to start expanding beyond the solar system at some point. I can think of nothing better than to be blindsided with that this year at some point. And then, like you said, let that lead into the Vault of Glass. Maybe, like, us taking down Clovis angers the Vex somehow. Like, they realize the Exos are part of the Vex, and that leads to them getting back into the Vault. I don't know. Like, there's a new storyline for the Vault. Who knows? Like, we honestly don't know what's going to happen with the Vault of Glass.
Yeah, I mean, all they said is the Vault is coming back. They didn't say if it was going to be...
I assume it's going to be very similar to the original because it's coming out of the content vault, but it's going to be tweaked for Destiny 2 gameplay.
Yeah.
So, and then they've already alluded to, champions are going to be in there, which nobody wants that.
I bet there'll be, like, one more, like, there'll be one different encounter in there somewhere, or new encounter. Getting into the vault will be different, I feel like.
Yes. Well, I think you're going to enter it on a completely different planets. I think you're either entering it through the Vex Gate that Clovis created on Europa, or you're entering it through Nessus.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Vex Gates can go to... There's tons of different gates to different constructs, so that wouldn't be anything surprising. There's so many different possibilities there. But that's all we got on the Collector's Edition. There are some really cool codes that people have found out. There's 3 emblem codes hidden within it. I will get those to Corey, and maybe we can put those in the show notes tonight. I'm not going to sit here and read them out.
Yeah, if you just send them to me in our chat, then I will I'll get them in the show notes.
Yeah. So, all right, but man, do you got any other thoughts on this before we move on to the sandbox changes, which is obviously our big topic tonight?
Not really. I just think it's really. Okay. I just really like how Bungie's rolling this stuff out. It just feels like it's a really solid cadence, and I know they've done a decent job of doing this beforehand, right? Like, it's just, I don't know, it feels different this time. I feel like maybe because Beyond Light is kind of like their first major release outside of Activision, maybe they're more comfortable doing it this. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like the information is getting to us faster, or like in a steady cadence, and it's a lot of information all the time, like a lot of good solid information that's not overwhelming or anything, you know. I don't know what it is about it this time, but it's working. So but before we get into the sandbox changes, Josh, I forgot to ask you, did you pre-order that Drifter numbskull?
I did not. Seeing that the EXO one is still in stock, I want to see how the Drifter's face, especially the close-up, did not really do it for me.
Yeah.
I think human faces are really hard to articulate and things like that, and that's why I liked the Exo Stranger one so much.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it turns out. If yours comes in and looks real, like, because you ordered it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
If it comes out and it looks real good, I am very, very likely to get it if yours looks good. Because I like everything else. I love the design of his armor, of his trench coat. I love the addition of him holding the coin. It just, I don't know, it feels a little bit blasé, and I don't really like how his face is sculpted. That's all.
Yeah, I noticed that in the pictures, but just, I don't know. Like you said, humans are so difficult to, like, especially in a, I don't know, like, you look at things like this, or you look at something like Hot Toys, or, you know, whatever else. It's just like, it's a lot easier to, like the Shaxx figure I have, right, looks great because he's wearing a helmet, and his, you know, just the armor looks great. Everything looks great on the Shaxx figure. The Saladin comes with either his face or a helmet that you can swap out, and I leave the helmet on because the face didn't look great. This is a different company, right? This is a different type of figure, statue, whatever you want to call it. But the close-ups of the Stranger's face did not look promising. But you know, I'm willing to take a chance on it. I love the Stranger one, though. Stranger one looks amazing.
Yeah, I love the Stranger one, and that's what I was saying. Like, imagine if it was a character that I, like, actually felt some sort of, like, connection to. For example, like, if there was a Cade 6 or a Varix done in that style.
Yeah.
I think I would like it a lot more. Like, I love the Drifter, don't get me wrong. It's just, I do think, especially when you're trying to stay within that budget, it's a little bit hard sometimes to articulate a human face.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I got it. I guess we'll have to wait till March to open it and find out. But anyways, let's get into the sandbox changes. Sorry, I just wanted to...
No, you're good. You're absolutely good. We love to talk collectibles here.
Yeah.
So sandbox changes got released today. So specifically about weapon tuning. Man, there's a lot to take in here. So we're going to take it bit by bit. We're going to talk hand cannons first. Hand cannons probably have the most changed on them. They basically, the long and the short of it is 110 hand cannons are now all being added into 120s, and there are no more 150s. They are all now 140s. So lightweights have been moved to adaptive, and then the 110s have been scaled up. They have said specifically with the lightweight ones that there is going to be one 150 rate of fire gun left, and that is going to be the exotic Sunshot. But Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten will be moved to 140 as well. On aggressive frames, of course, that's the 110s and 120s. They are breaking out aggressive hand cannons, allowing custom tuning of stats for damage fall off, etc. Adaptive damage fall off range now starts at 25 instead of at 20, and on precisions, the magazine on 180s has been scaled up by 37% and will affect exotics with that rate of fire as well. At this time, lightweight 150 rate of fire hand cannons represent the majority of hand cannons used in the Crucible. While we experimented with many different ways to even out lightweights and adaptives, which are at 140, lightweight hand cannons consistently retained a faster time to kill. As such, we opted to equalize their rate of fire. We selected 140 as it's fairly balanced in the Crucible sandbox. It gives other weapon archetypes more time to breathe between shots, avoids an overabundance of hand cannons with faster time to kill than other weapons, and pairs nicely with upcoming changes to 600 rate of fire auto rifles, and more on that below. So if you like hand cannons, I do not use hand cannons. I use Ace of Spades sparingly, and even then it's usually in PvE activities. Hawkmoon is probably the only one I will use in the Crucible. But, Corey, are you a hand cannon man?
No. I think the only hand cannon I used, like, the most was Crimson, and that's not even a real hand cannon. Let's be honest.
That's entirely true.
It's basically a single-handed pulse rifle.
So, if you are somebody who likes hand cannons, please let us know what you think about these changes. You can definitely judge these better than we can, because all I do is play around with Ace of Spades and Thorn.
Yeah, I am trying to get Ace of Spades before that quest goes away.
Yeah,
I'm
2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm almost done with it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll use it, but I really just want the gun just to have it. You know, I'm not really gonna use it probably. So I'm more of an auto rifle guy. Auto rifle, scout rifle. Although scout rifles kind of suck right now. So I've kind of been running auto rifles, but
so let's keep going. So sniper rifles are going to be next. We want sniper rifles to feel powerful without being so easy to use that they dominate. They are adjusting how aim assist is affected by the zoom level. Lower zoom scopes will have less aim assist. Higher scopes have more. Scopes with around 50 zoom are unchanged. Low zoom scopes will have a large reduction in the aim assist cone angle, and high zoom scopes will have a small increase. Nothing absolutely major there, but that definitely will affect the Crucible a little bit, especially with Beloved and Revoker going away for higher end PvP like Survival and Trials, and Iron Banner as well. So you don't have to worry about those anymore. We're all going to be learning together about new snipers to use. Auto rifles. Back in Season of Worthy, the adaptive archetype 600 rate of fire was given a buff. We are pulling that in a little to keep it in check with other auto rifle archetypes. So for those unfamiliar with what a 600 rate of fire gun is for an auto rifle, that is... that's your Gnawing Hunger.
Yeah.
Gnawing Hunger has absolutely decimated the Crucible for the last season and a half. Really, especially this season, once everybody started getting it in their Umbral Ingrams.
Gnawing Hunger wrecks. I don't take it off. Like, I mean, anytime I go into PvP at all, which is rare, but anytime I do, I'm like, Gnawing Hunger is going in. Definitely.
Yeah, it's basically long range Recluse. Like how everybody is like, oh my god, it's everywhere. It is essentially how Recluse was on PC before its like 5 nerfs.
Yeah.
And that's not even an exaggeration. Damage per bullet will be reduced from 15.75 to 14.25. So it is a bit of a scale back. Prior to Season of Worthy, the damage per bullet was 13.75. So it is still an increase over that, but it is scaling it back quite a bit. They're taking it down 1.5 points, so it will take a little bit longer to kill. I still expect 600s to be absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible guns. But this will make 450s, such as those nice Braytek Werewolf and Horror Story rolls that we're getting in the Haunted Forest, a bit more viable in PvP. You still may not be using them in endgame, such as in Trials, but for regular Crucible, for Iron Banner, even for Survival, like these will probably be decent options now, instead of just being LOL to the vault.
Yeah.
Scout rifles. Something. Oh, go ahead.
I was just making a noise to agree with you. It wasn't like
okay.
I wasn't about to say anything.
Yeah. Scout rifles. Something that both of us really like. Scouts have a reasonable time to kill and can't be adjusted too much without making them dominate in the battlefield, so we're making them a bit easier to use. They are increasing how much each point of the aim assist stat widens the cone, and right now the cone is 15% wider than it currently is. I don't know how I feel about this. I still feel like you could buff the damage at least a little bit on them because, man, in the Crucible, unless you're just absolutely on top of it or you're in a mode like Momentum Control, there is almost no reason to use a Scout right now outside of suffering through a daily bounty where you have to get Scout Rifle kills.
Yeah, Scout Rifles are my favorite weapon to use, and I never use it in Crucible, which sucks because, like, I mean, I was using Scout, like, multi-tool is just basically like vault trash now. Like, I mean, it used to be the gun. Now it's just like...
I haven't used multi-tool. I think I used it a little bit to help me get Randy's throwing knife. But I mean, so many of us cheesed that in Momentum Control.
Yeah.
With Jade Rabbit, which was a one-hit kill. But yeah, so I hope this helps out a little bit in PvP with Scout Rifles. I would like a reason to go use them. Nightwatch can still get it done occasionally, and Randy's, if you're really good, Randy's is an absolute monster. We have a buddy who, A1 Johnny and I have a buddy who uses Randy's throwing knife anytime he invades in Gambit and just absolutely decimates teams with it. So if you're good with it and you're mobile, it's a really good gun still. But of course, that also is being sunset in 2 weeks. So
yeah,
good luck, everybody. Rocket launchers.
Ooh, Two-tailed fox coming back, everybody.
These heavy weapons currently have very low reserves, so we're adjusting that. They expect to take a look at rocket launchers in future seasons. So this is them acknowledging that they don't think that they've got it down pat yet. But the only news here is increased reserves by 1 or 2 rockets depending on the inventory stat. Thank God. Thank God. That's by far one of the biggest complaints about rocket launchers is you only have 1 and the 2 before you got to reload. This will make tracking ones such as Bad Omens, and again, even more of a nightmare in things like Gambit, where truth already reigns supreme. There's not a whole lot you can really do about that, I guess. And then we've got a bunch of other changes based on player feedback. I'm going to go through a couple of these real quickly, ones that are specifically impactful to us or to people that we play with. The Outlaw perk, reload speed increase felt insufficient with certain subfamilies and combination of roles. Example, aggressive hand cannons. Increased the reload stat bonus from plus 50 to plus 70. So Outlaw won't be quite back to its pre-nerf level, but it will go back up again, making it a little bit more viable for things like Scouts. Merciless will have increased reserve ammo. There is a whole paragraph on Mountaintop here that... It's had ample time to shine, so we're taking it down a notch. They are specifically reducing splash damage by 33%, and impact damage is 5% lower than before. Reduced projectile velocity multiplier from micro missile from 1.4 to 1.2, 20% faster than other breach grenade launchers instead of 40, and reduced the in-air accuracy. So that's a big deal. And now, if you don't run Icarus grip on that now, like it's really going to suffer. These are really welcome changes. This is something that's terrorized PvP for a very long time now, for a year and a half now. And it's, despite any sort of nerf, it has not stopped becoming an absolute go-to. People love to meme with it in Trials and in Survival and Iron Banner. I'm so excited to never have to see this weapon again in endgame PvP after the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This gun is the bane of my existence. That being said, my personal goal was to earn it before the end of this season, especially with the extended season. I'm at like 80-something% on the double kills, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
So I suck it up and finish it. But just, if you earned it, congratulations. You've had a year and a half of terrorizing with it. It's time for it and Recluse to go away.
Yeah.
The one that probably affects us the most, Falling Guillotine. Reduces the heavy attack damage by 24%.
Ew, gross.
Bring it in with other swords. It will continue to be slightly above average, just not to the extent it is now. It's worth noting, this is the second nerf that they have given this sword since it came out. It all season, even after the first nerf, it has basically been an exotic in your legendary slot.
Yeah, it's a beast. Like, if I'm not using Xenophage in that slot, that's Fallen Guillotine is the weapon.
For anything that's on the ground, a ground strike boss, Gambit, etc., like this is the move right here. You just can't go wrong with Falling Guillotine, and I think we've seen that so much. My personal belief is that the raid boss will be something that you can like get up close to, or that at least the mini bosses will be, and that's part of why this is getting nerfed so badly. Is because otherwise you'd be able just to decimate that boss by spamming your heavy and then your light attack. If you do have Whirlwind Blade, the light attack is still very, very powerful. So I'd encourage anybody who does not have a roll with Whirlwind Blade, get one before the end of this season. Whirlwind Blade and Relentless Strikes, I believe, is what I run on mine. And Masterwork, it still does a ton of damage. So yeah, Falling Guillotine will not quite be the God Killer it is now. It will not be Dark Drinker 2.0 anymore, but it will still probably be a best in slot until it is retired next year. Mida Multi-Tool and Mini-Tool. For the Mini-Tool.
Oh, Mini-Tool.
Yeah. So, fun fact about Mini-Tool and about Drang. These will actually be available at the Gunsmith once Beyond Light comes out. And there will be no light cap on them, meaning we can keep infusing them forever. Move the Mida Synergy trait to the Intrinsic, similar to how the Baroque version works. So the Baroque version is obviously what you get out of the Leviathan, out of the... oh, God, what's it called? God, whatever the stupid thing with the runes is. I'm completely forgetting right now.
Oh, the
Menagerie.
Hey, the Menagerie.
Mini-Tool will also have the following perks of Hip Fire Grip and Kill Clip. There is an issue with the Masterwork on this weapon that prevents it from being upgraded. It will be fixed in a later update. And, of course, the note, the Gunsmith will sell a version of this weapon on November 10th with no infusion cap. That basically means you're always going to have a fairly solid SMG and sidearm that you can get and just continuously upgrade. Really like that. Drang, moved Together Forever trait to the Intrinsic, just like before. Added perks, Accurized Rounds, and Moving Target. I'm kind of excited to try this out, which I've never said for regular Drang before. The Baroque one, of course, was a really, really great sidearm, especially as we got into Shadowkeep. Probably the only other big one on this list. So we've got Ruinous Effigy, Arbalist, and Jade Rabbit left. Ruinous Effigy is probably the biggest one, though. Transmutation Spheres reduces the damage of the aerial melee attack by 25% and reduce the damage of the drain effect on enemy combatants. Again, this is really the one out of all of these that came out of left field. I think we all expected a Falling Guillotine nerf. I think we expected some changes to Jade Rabbit that we're going to see below. Mountaintop we knew was going to get nerfed into the ground. We all knew rocket launchers, scouts, autos, all those needed fixes, especially hand cannons. But this one feels like it really was unexpected. It took pretty much the whole community by surprise.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you've done the Contact public event at all this year,
Mm-hmm.
you've seen the absurd power of this gun, of the mutation spheres. They reckon the Crucible. My personal belief is that there's something that was breaking the raid with this gun.
Yeah.
For them specifically nerf this, and specifically to be nerfing the mutation spheres and nothing else in the gun, that leads me to believe that there was something game breaking there, and they're trying to head it off now. I'm very, very curious to see the raid now. If my theory is correct, then this really was destroying it. A lot of other high end players seem to be believing the same thing.
Yeah.
Arbalest will no longer strike shields multiple times, but sufficiency against shield targeted has been increased. And the Jade Rabbit, armor-piercing rounds are now high-caliber rounds, and fixed an issue that was preventing the exotic perk from triggering. That's something that we know has been in the works for quite some time now.
Mm-hmm.
These are big changes. These are really big changes.
Yeah.
The community is pretty divided. Early reactions were pretty divided on how we feel about some of these, especially when it comes to the hand cannon changes and to Ruinous Effigy. If I used Ruinous more, I think I'd be a little bit more ticked off about this. I have a few friends who have just loved maining that this season, who are like, what the fuck? Like, I really, really, really like this gun. Like, I don't think it needed to be nerfed at all.
It is pretty powerful, though.
It is really powerful. For me, the one I think that really hurts is Guillotine. But at the same time, maybe it's going to force me to get good with another heavy weapon that I can't just go up and spam an enemy with.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've taken Fallen Guillotine into the Contact public event or something, or doing some sort of.
Oh, dude, the boss drops in 10 seconds if you have more than one person running it.
Yeah, it's insane. It's just insane.
It's still going to be stupid powerful if you have more than one person using it. Like, this is still going to be the best sword in the game, most likely, if not the best heavy weapon right now.
Yeah. I can't, 2 weeks ago, I think I was playing with, it was because we were trying to do the last interference mission. And we were doing the Contact event, and he was running Ruinous Effigy, and 3 of us were running Fallen Guillotine, and it just toasted him. He's gone. Done.
Yeah. In the Haunted Forest, it's a cheat code. I joked with a friend of mine, Matt, when I was playing with him the other night. I didn't get hits in on some of the bosses at the end because him and another guy were just running in with Guillotine.
Yeah.
Which was pretty funny. So,
yeah, it's insane. I mean, I'm kind of sad, but also I get it.
I get it. It has had 5 months in the sun at this point.
Yeah.
We have humiliated multiple bosses with it at this stage. I know the first time that I went to go complete Spire of Stars with Johnny in our group, everybody got stomped off the platform except for me, so I was still chilling inside of a well in a bubble, swinging that sword, and just as people are going down, I'm just I'm going ham on the boss. I don't even know how much I was doing at a certain point. All I know is we died and we wiped. I had 1.5 mil just from using a sword on the Spire of Stars boss. Valkalor, I think, is who it is. So, man, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I love that sword, but I'm excited to be able to use other things now.
Yeah.
Because when a weapon is so dominant like that, you feel like you're at a disadvantage.
I mean, that's the whole point of these nerfs and stuff, right? It's people get used to using the same. I mean, people find they min-max everything. They find what the meta is, and they stick with it the whole season. You know what I mean? That better than anybody. You have same rotation of 6 or 7 guns, and that's it. And this is we're going into a time where they're going to start sunsetting these things. Certain guns won't carry over after the next season, next couple seasons or whatever. Besides the exotics, but they're going to force people to use new things, and I think I mean, what's the point of working on new things if the players aren't going to use them? So I get it, I get it.
Yeah. So that does it for the sandbox changes. I know I said we weren't going to read through them, but we tried to get through them pretty quickly. The only other thing in the TWAB I think that needs to be mentioned, adept weapons are coming back in Beyond Light for those of you who go flawless to the lighthouse. The adept weapons will differ from the base weapons because when you masterwork a weapon, you will get +10 to the primary strat, the specific masterwork of the weapon, and +3 for all alternate stats. You can use a standard weapon mod or a new adept weapon mod earned when you go flawless. Unique shaders has been made for these weapons. They are not awarded as a consumable when you dismantle them, so they cannot be applied to other gear. These weapons look really, really cool, and I'm just sitting here staring at it, knowing I'll never have these.
Womp womp.
Yeah, womp womp. We're gonna fly this real quick. Weapon mods come in 2 varieties: weapon stat boosts, which grant +10 to a particular stat, like a masterwork, or versions of some existing mods granting an improved bonus but with a downside. So, like for example, adept mag will give you +40 for the magazine, -20 on handling. Backup mag +30 magazine, things like that. To earn the weapons or mods, you must complete a flawless trials patches and open the flawless chest at the lighthouse. Each week a different mod can drop. The mods will be on a weekly rotation. So given mods may not make its appearance until later in the seasons, mod is unlocked for use on owned adept weapons when acquired. Weapons will be available from the flawless chest on a bi-weekly basis, alternating with armor drops. First adept weapon acquired on a given week is a pinnacle drop, and they will be on a set rotation. So yeah, a lot more incentive for those of you who do trials to go flawless. For people like me and Corey, we will cheer you on from the sidelines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we will continue playing Iron Banner and Momentum Control with you guys.
Yes. And
we'll keep having fun.
AKA, I'll just keep sucking and be jealous of your weapon when I see it.
That's completely fair. And the last thing I'm going to mention, I normally wouldn't mention this, but Twitch Prime drops. We had a new drop this week. The Cryptomnesia Sparrow is actually making its debut in this month's Prime drop. It is a sparrow that has never been accessible before. It is an ice-covered sparrow, which looks really, really cool. Of course, once you redeem your pack on Twitch Prime, you can pick these up from Amanda Holiday. But they say very specifically at the end, stay tuned for future updates. We're all kind of wondering what that means right now. Like, are we going to get more Twitch Prime drops? They've already extended it a couple of times. It was supposed to run out after 6, and then they threw 4 more on. This is the last one. You have until the 23rd of November, I believe, to acquire this bundle. It comes with the Sparrow, 801's Lone Wolf Ship, the Peerless Precision Ghost Shell, and the Flare Gun emote. So really cool, especially with it being a brand new Sparrow, and that emote's from just a couple seasons back. So,
do you think? I mean, I know they have like the Twitch drops and everything, but do you think they could incorporate specific drops into Game Pass quests now that we're kind of on this?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to steer the conversation into this real quickly before we got off of it. I do think that there's going to be Game Pass perks at some point, but I think Bungie's going to be very careful with that because right now only Xbox players can enjoy that. Once it comes to PC next year, I don't think it would be completely out of the question to do this. I just know with third-party games, it's a little bit tricky, and especially in a major live service game like this.
Yeah.
It's not like giving away some stuff in Dauntless or like PAX. Well, Phantasy Star Online is exclusive, but like you may be giving away, I think they did some stuff for Spellbreak possibly.
Yeah.
Doing things like that, or like for Warframe, like that's not really getting people bent out of shape. I think doing anything with Destiny beyond things that have been available and acquirable for a long time would get people bent out of shape.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you do a pack where like, hey, here's like 1,000 Bright Dust or something, and here's a couple of things from like maybe late Forsaken, early Shadowkeep.
Yeah.
I could definitely see things like that. I do think they're going to shift away from the Twitch Prime drops though in the spring. And I think that, or maybe they'll alternate like, hey, 1 month we're going to give it away on Twitch Prime, 1 month we're going to do something in Game Pass. just I would almost guarantee you that there's going to be Game Pass perks related to this game.
Yeah.
Even though that is a slippery slope, like I said. So,
yeah. I mean, like you said, they got to be really careful, and I wonder if it'll be like, it could be like retired emotes or whatever, things you can't get anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the Twitch Prime drops have been like that too. It's stuff that's been in the loophole for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be stuff that's been available for Bright Dust as well. Weapons that everybody has had the opportunity to get, and like, hey, maybe we'll give you a special skin for it, or a skin that's already existed in the game, or whatever. There will not be any silver. Anybody speculating that they're going to give away whole seasons or silver on Game Pass, because I've seen those predictions float around. Y'all are nuts. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But Bungie's not going to give up that money. They're already giving up money for Beyond Light and for the previous expansions to be on Game Pass. They're not going to give up even more revenue.
Yeah.
Especially pure revenue that they get to keep. So,
yeah.
But I think that does it for our TWAB tonight.
The TWAB.
They did say next week. I want to make sure I get this right down here at the end. The goal next week is to talk about bounties, currencies, and progression systems. Their goal is to talk about that next week. People have been asking a lot of questions on Twitter, on Reddit, etc. about bounty stacking, and if they'll be cleared at the beginning of next year. A lot of us, myself included, really stacked up on them at the beginning of right before Shadowkeep started, and before this season even, to try and get to the artifact as quickly as possible, or to boost the artifact as quick as possible. And especially, I know we're talking about doing the raid day one. This obviously would be a massive boost towards that.
Yeah.
They say most bounties will stay intact, but any bounties tied to specific seasonal activities or content entering the vault will be removed on November 10th. Examples include Black Armory, Gambit Prime, or Festival of the Lost bounties. Additionally, any bounties that grant progression towards Infamy or Valor may negatively impact your powerful rewards, as they will be limited to Season of Arrival's power levels. Our recommendation is to go ahead and claim your bounties just to make sure you don't miss out on any XP or Glimmer. I think that kind of seals it for me. Unless they talk about something very specific next week, I'm not going to stack up on bounties. I'm just going to turn all my stuff in, leading into the end.
Yeah, because I mean that's been a thing. That was a thing. That was like especially in Destiny 1, like you stacked your bounties for the next expansion, because then you would like instantly level up like 15 or 20 light levels at some point. And in some cases, like my friend would double up on bounties on all of his characters, and he would start the expansion like really overpowered, and it really helped when he was trying to get, like when we were trying to get into the raid that first weekend, you know. So
I think having 11 days is part of the reason. I really think that's part of the reason why it's coming out 11 days after and not the week of, is because they plan on removing most bounties. And I think they're going to tell us that next week, which I'm okay. That leaves everybody on an even playing field. Nobody has an advantage, and it literally comes down to your skill, how many powerful drops you can get, how many pinnacle drops you can get, and really understanding how to maximize that system.
Yeah.
So,
plus I think depending on what the light level is for the raid, or power level, it's like you won't have to kill yourself for 3 days to get there.
Yeah, I think right now they're saying that 1230 is what you should be aiming for, or that's like the max light you can have during contest mode without your artifact, because the artifact will have nothing to do with this. I do, and I would like a little bit of clarification from them when they say that the artifact has no bearing on it. Does that mean that your artifact mods also don't? Because we've seen things like Oppressive Darkness can completely change the outcome of a raid fight. When you combine that with something like Falling Guillotine or Xenophage or Divinity or something like that, like that's just an absurd amount of damage that you can do.
Yeah.
The right grenades.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. So we've got one other big thing to get to tonight. It is the long-awaited return of the lore corner.
Yes.
Um,
Let me tell you.
Go ahead.
I've missed Lore Corner. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed
to.
the show last week with everybody, and like, you know what I mean. Like, I really enjoy having guests and great conversations. But I miss Lore Corner. You know.
This is this is kind of the last major topic we needed to get to before Beyond Light. I was prepared to bump this another week if I had to. Thank God that's not the case. They did not give us an absolutely soul-crushing TWAB this week. But the Drifter story is really, really long. We're not going to simply do, since we met him, like we have with some of these other characters. We're actually going to go through the Drifter's history a little bit right now. Going to kind of give a condensed version of his origins, and then we'll really dig into his story once he hits the city. That's really when we've come to know him, and we need to know about some of the behind the scenes things, because that's what's going to be relevant going into Beyond Light. But during the Dark Age, the Drifter was resurrected by his ghost, who was trying to lead him to the last city. The Drifter was one of the first risen. He was one of the very first. The Drifter was really wary of the Traveler, though, from the beginning, and he decides to go in the opposite direction. He dies of starvation multiple times, being revived by his ghost, and every time he was revived, he was starving. He eventually found his way to a small village where he starts a new life as a citizen, keeps his ghost and the power of his light hidden, but performing miracles when nobody was around in order to provide small amounts of food for himself and for the village. Eventually, the Iron Lords came, and the leader, Lord Dryden, offered the town multiple months' worth of supplies and food in return for use of the town as bait to draw out an enemy known as the Red Man. The town very eagerly accepted the terms, and they were able to survive the winter. However, one of the villagers tried to escape because they were afraid of the Iron Lords. He was captured by the Red Man and his fire team and tipped off the warlords to the town's location. When the warlords arrived, the Iron Lords ambushed them, and the resulting battle burned the town to the ground as Drifter's ghost watched from afar. When the battle was over, Drifter buried all of the townsfolk. He would eventually own a bar in the shadow of Fellwinter Peak, going by the name Wu Ming, still keeping his light and his identity as a secret. His bar was destroyed when Lady Effertite got into a fight with a group of warlords and shot it up. The Drifter paying her when this was all done. He walked up Fellwinter Peak to talk with Lord Fellwinter himself after the fight. He informed him of what happened with Lord Dryden and what happened to the town, and that he broke the code of the Iron Lords. Fellwinter was skeptical of the Drifter and asking how he could prove his claims. Drifter's ghost appeared and sent pieces of evidence, audio and video, to the ghost of Lord Fellwinter. And then Fellwinter simply asked them to leave while preparing his Iron Banner loadout. At some point in the Dark Age, Drifter was in a crew with several Risen, and they would perform heists on warlord territories. And they'd pick off everything. They'd pick off enemies. They would respond to security detail issues. They would steal supplies and encountered no other resistance during this. Drifter commented in the years that would follow to us, specifically in the events of Joker's Wild, that he could have kept on with that with his crew for centuries. So after this, though, when the City Age dawns, as most of the Risen and most of humanity are moving out there, Drifter sets out to leave the Sol system with some of his crew, searching in something greater than the light. Due to the conflicts the light had brought to Earth, he traveled for centuries, eventually finding a cold, desolate planet, which gave off an energy that seemed to repel light, similar to the weapon Thorn. Drifter went to go and try and make it portable, although he felt that humans were not yet supposed to be on this world. The extreme cold of the planet took a toll on the light bearers and caused them to occasionally freeze to death and require ghost resurrection. Yet Drifter and his comrades were hopeful they could find something useful, and they were confident in their skills. They found a series of monolith-like structures on the planet with strange shadow-like creatures imprisoned in cryogenic suspension. quick aside, this has been speculated to possibly be the Race of the Darkness. The Veil is the name that the community has kind of dubbed it. We were wondering if we'd see them beyond light for the first time. I personally don't think so unless it's going to be in a cutscene. I think that these guys are likely coming either in The Witch Queen or in Lightfall. I think they're going to spend a couple years building up to the actual Race of the Darkness. They determined that these entities are the source of the light-repressing fields, and they shared characteristics with the Hive, which would make sense since the Hive was created by the darkness. And they discovered that not all of them were imprisoned in the monoliths, and some roamed in the wild. A member of Drifter's crew froze to death, but was unable to be revived by his ghost due to the proximity of one of the creatures. This loss angered them, but increased his determination to find a way to take creatures off-world, as they could change conflicts between light bearers forever. They also became paranoid at this point, after being so close to them. Drifter and his crew moved into one of the monoliths to get better protection and against the cold. He continued examining the technology and tried to understand how the cryptotech work. Tempers rose, and when a second member of the crew died to the proximity of one of the creatures, some of them began to believe that the others had lured the creatures close. Although Drifter thought the creature itself had deliberately only killed one of them as a warning to leave. When one of the light bearers drew his gun, the Drifter warned them all the next time one of them died that he would kill them all. A little over a year after they arrived, only the Drifter and 3 others remained, and their ship had ceased working due to the intense cold. The cold had killed them thousands of times by this point, and the paranoia had turned them to insanity. After settling in for another night in a monolith, they lost all connection to their light due to Gaul entrapping the Traveler in a cage. So we're catching up to the present day now. They each believed that the others were responsible and drew their weapons. The Drifter lived up to his promise and murdered his 3 remaining companions. His ghost snapped at him at this point, informing Drifter of a way they could capture the creatures. Drifter asked how they could do such a thing, and his ghost told him of a series of modifications they could perform on his shell, but they would require components from other ghosts, the ghosts of Drifter's deceased teammates, which had now scattered across the icy planet. Drifter hunted down the ghosts, being sure to stay away from the creatures as much as possible, and him having killed the ghosts to obtain their parts began the modification process of his own ghost, trying not to freeze to death before it was complete. When they were complete, his ghost could see and emit light and energy in spectrums no other ghost could, eventually inspiring the tech used for the Gambit banks, moats, and portals. He returns to the solar system on a ship called the Derelict, with the object from the Nine, the Hall, and a small taken army in a pocket dimension, which he could control using the Motes of Dark. He eventually came to the last city, of course, started the competition Gambit, and would recruit other Guardians. He encountered the rogue gunslinger Shin Malphur, who had begun tracking Drifter after learning of his connections with the Shadows of Yore, who Malphur was hunting. Drifter was associated with them for a little while, and until he had a falling out with Callum Soul. Callum, if you remember correctly, is the guy that is killed, and we see his shadow in the Ascendant realm when we go to do the Malfeasance quest line. He also claimed that the object his ship was pulling, the hull, may yet be powerful. Malphur was unsatisfied with this, and he changed the subject by mentioning Callum, knowing Malphur's obsession with killing the Shadows of Yore would divert his attention. The Drifter at this point had also met Callus in his real form. Reminder, we've never met Callus in his real form. We've only seen the robots.
Yeah.
Drifter asked if Callus would be fighting over Guardians now, and Callus simply replied that his shadows were his, and Drifter took that as a yes. He tells Callus that the Cabal Emperor is not even Cabal anymore and leaves on his Sparrow. Of course, he starts the Gambit with Shin's approval. He undertakes the goal to retake the Prison of Elders on behalf of the Spider. And at this point, he gives us the Malfeasance quest. We're not going to go into that. It's hinted that Shin kills Callum for being part of the Shadows of Yore and using the parts stolen from his body. Or not from his body, just using the parts stolen. Drifter and the Guardian create the Malfeasance, weapon powered by both the light and the dark. Probably the biggest chunk with the Drifter, though, comes from Joker's Wild, when you're forced to take a side between the Vanguard or the Drifter, which really has had no consequence other than him calling you a snitch if you ratted on him to the Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
But he specifically goes into something, and these are weekly bounties we could get from Zur during Joker's Wild, and I think you may still be able to obtain them, but they are going away, to my knowledge. You get a vision from the Nine and from Paladin Orin that shows the card game where the Drifter had been granted the Hull from the Nine. The Drifter was alarmed about the Nine reaching out to the Guardian and that they had gotten another glimpse into his past, stating that his deal with the Nine was risky and warned them not to trust them or would have become a Paladin Orin. He asked them to ignore the emissary if they approached them again and leave the situation to him to deal with. A few weeks later, the Drifter confronted the Guardian, but their continued visits with the emissary in the unknown space, where we do the Reckoning at. And he asked them to stop visiting her if he explained who she was, and proceeded to tell them about how Orin used to be a Reefborn Awoken who was close to Marasa before dying and being reborn as a Guardian. She eventually went looking for the Nine to gain power and got it, but she was transformed into the emissary. The Drifter declares her past no longer mattered and she was no longer who she had been, just like him, and made another demand they stop investigating. Of course, we ignore the Drifter and we continue doing these. And then they learn of the Drifter's true past with Orin and the Nine, and of the warning given to him about the Pyramids' imminent arrival. This is the next mention that we see of the Pyramids. We saw a little bit of them in Marasov's throne world, as we mentioned several weeks ago when we talked about Mara and Uldren. That this is big. His own interactions had confirmed his deepest fears, that he was in over his head with everything that was happening. And he warns the Guardian in a final passing they need to set aside their conflicts, their inner conflicts, and understand the light could not defeat the coming darkness on its own. But typical of the Drifter, the key to salvation lays in Gambit, he says. He very much sees Gambit as a way to train the Guardians for what's coming, which presumably is why he's on Europa. That seems to be the big mystery right now, is why exactly is the Drifter on Europa? We know why the Stranger is, and we know why Eris is at this point, but the Drifter is still a big question mark.
The Deep Stone's Crypt is actually just a big Gambit arena.
God, get out. I hate you so much. Of course, you have different stories that play out if you side with the Drifter or the Vanguard. We're not going to go into that. It does deal with the Praxic Order, of course. And then, if you snitch on him, then he calls you a snitch. Continuing on in the events of Shadowkeep, he kind of went a little bit dark after Joker's Wild. We don't see much of him in Opulence or in Shadowkeep itself. We see him mentioned in the Season of Dawn, though, that he helped Osiris build the Sundial initially. And he notes something very interesting when he returns to the tower, that he can hear the Sundial whispering. We don't really know what plays into that. I do still think that there's something to come with Osiris. Everything's kind of coming to a head right now, and of course that brings us to the Season of Arrivals. Drifter is approached by Eris to help in hearing the messages the Pyramid is broadcasting. After an exchange, the two agree to work together, and he contributes to her mission by enhancing one of the Gambit banks so it could store the power of the darkness put out by the Pyramid. He builds 2 new machines. Also, one device is made to decode engrams tainted by the Pyramid's power into tools for the Guardians, while the other charges and focuses the power of a seed from the Tree of Silver Wings, so Eris can receive the messages. Of course, we know now the messages were, of course, being interfered with by Nokris on Savathun's orders to prevent us from getting the secret of the power of darkness. And he informs the Guardian of all this, essentially. He wants to learn the secrets of the darkness quickly, though, and believes he can use the Hall to travel to the realms of the Nine and ask them what the darkness was, believing they may hold the answers. Eris, of course, chastises them for it, does not like them going and doing this without her approval, and basically says you can't go do the events of the Prophecy Dungeon without her being involved. That's kind of where we're left at, though. Of course, canonically, the farthest we've seen of the Drifter is him docking his ship or taking off from the Hall, landing on Europa, and meeting with Eris and the Stranger, seeing the Pyramid. And And the stranger, it is implied at this point, has called to them both for unknown reasons. We know why Eris would be seeking out the pyramid on Europa. She pretty much says it as much, and the darkness beckons us to come to Europa as well. The Drifter is still a very big question mark. Despite all this information, we know so much about his past, and yet we know so little. We don't even know the Drifter's real name.
Yeah.
I feel like he's there kind of to take the place of Cade. He is very much the comic relief of this. Let's see. There is something else though. So he has quotes in various things. I was really hoping to see if I could find some of his quotes from the Prophecy Dungeon. Very notably, we've addressed this before, but him and Eris have discussed how Shax has an Ahamkara skull hanging up above him. How the Drifter confronted Shax about taking it down, and Shax basically told him, no, like, I'll kill you before I take it down. And he's like, I'm not having that conversation with him again.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is an awful lot of stuff. You gotta love it. He's gonna have a massive role to play.
Yeah, I mean, when they introduced him, you were like, well, is he really just gonna be this guy that makes you play this weird game mode, right? Like, yeah. I mean, now that we kind of see him in that opening trailer with him there with the stranger and Eris and the pyramid and the things we've seen afterwards, like, the Drifter is obviously way more than we've seen so far.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going on, what the Drifter's endgame is here, but just that his belief that Gambit is salvation seems to be derived from those creatures that inhabited the monoliths that he found on the ice planet. Mm-hmm. So, and it's implied that that's beyond our own solar system, that it is not Europa. Mm-hmm. I mean, I almost wonder if maybe it could be part of the Hall that he has, but who knows? There's so much mystery about him, and I do think that we're going to learn a lot more in the base game of Beyond Light about the Drifter and his motivations here. Yeah. He wants to be on whatever side wins. He doesn't trust the Lightbearers, but he sure as hell doesn't trust the darkness. Yet he's going to be one of the few who's going to be like, yeah, you gotta embrace, like, that's one of his lines, embrace the darkness.
Yeah.
So it would stand to reason, like we've theorized on this show before, just to kind of end on all this, that he will be part of a new darkness vanguard.
Yeah,
so to speak, that he would essentially be the Shax of that group, of a darkness consensus almost.
Yeah.
Him, Eris, the Stranger, Varix, and maybe even Osiris. We know Osiris is working very closely with the Vanguard, but he's also had a brush with the darkness, and came back a little stranger from that. So that has been Lore Corner this week. It's a very long one. It's a very detailed one. But it's really important for us to understand the Drifter before we go into this expansion.
Yeah, the Drifter is way more important than you guys, or than anybody, not you guys, but you know what I mean, like,
than any of us realize.
Yeah, like when he was first introduced, like I said earlier, I was like, oh well, he's just this new vendor in the tower that makes us play this weird new game mode that Bungie made up, and here we are. 2 years later, right? It was introduced in Forsaken, right?
Yeah, 2 years. It's been 2 years. Yep.
Finally seeing the payoff, and I like.
And we spent about a year and 11 months of that complaining about it. So
I like when Bungie introduces things that seem kind of indifferent or irrelevant, and then 2 years later or 3 years later, or I mean, look at the Stranger. Like 7 years later, we get a payoff. Like, it just, I like that, man. I like it.
I do too. I think that an awful lot of lore content is going to come, and it's going to change the way we fundamentally think about some of our favorite characters. Mm-hmm. We've already seen a willingness by Zavala to do whatever he has to do in order to protect humanity. We know Eris, obviously. Eris is like, hell yeah, I'm in on stasis. My connection to the light's been severed. Bring it on.
Yeah.
And I gotta know what that what that weird jellyfish-looking thing is flying next to the stranger. I gotta know. They won't say what it is.
I mean, they've confirmed it's not a ghost, right?
It is not a ghost. I suspect that it is something almost like a darkness ghost, maybe.
Yeah.
I suspect that it could be something from the Vex homeworld as well.
Yeah.
So
you think it does the same thing as the ghost though? Like it revives revives her if she dies or something? You think it has that power?
I'm not really sure, because I think that if you do something like that in game, that it has to, which to be clear, I do think that we're going to get one of these things for ourselves, because why wouldn't we? That's a way to sell more cosmetics.
Yeah.
But when you do that, I think you have to do it right, because you have to differentiate it enough from the ghost, I think. Otherwise, it just feels cheap.
Uh-huh.
But man, I don't know how it would function with an NPC, though. I'm very curious to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Or maybe we infuse the ghost with whatever power this thing has, and they become like the same thing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe our ghost can be enhanced by this thing's power or whatever. I don't know. I mean, because
possibly. Who knows?
I mean, we've seen a ghost merge with another ghost before, right? Like in the Osiris DLC, right? Like, doesn't Osiris's ghost kind of not merge with your ghost, but like kind of take it over for a hot second?
Yeah, something really weird happens with that.
Yeah,
we've seen ghosts taken over by the power of the pyramids before.
Yeah.
And speak to us. Side note, though, we didn't talk about this. The story trailers that came out this week. Our Guardian talks again, and I'm so excited for that.
Didn't they?
Don't talk enough.
Didn't our Guardian talk in Shadowkeep? Wasn't that?
Nope.
Our Guardian talked at some point in one of the more recent expansions.
Our Guardian talks when it's our Shadow talking to us in the Garden of Salvation cutscene at the very end of Shadowkeep that just abruptly ends. Our Guardian had three or four lines of dialogue total in Forsaken, I believe. Like, we simply do not talk much anymore, and that really frustrates me. I'm tired of having to be told everything through Ghost.
Yeah.
I understand the logistics of trying to record the same dialogue for not just male and female, but for 3 different races as well, and then multiply that into like the 6 or 7 different languages that are part of the language pack. I get it. It's still really frustrating, though.
Yeah.
I really would love for our Guardian to talk more. I think that would add so much more to this world and to the exposition of the story, rather than having to have Ghost give me a history lesson. Like, I actually really miss the banter between the Guardian and Ghost from Destiny 1.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about Destiny 1 the other day, by the way, because Gathalion was playing Destiny 1 on his Series X. That's like been his big thing this past week.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, man, I kind of miss some of that stuff. I mean, obviously we're going to get some of it, but especially like the story stuff when your Guardian does talk to your Ghost about stuff. Especially there's a lot on the moon that happens. So, I don't know. You're right. Guardian does talk this time, and I kind of forget that your Guardian even has a voice sometimes. Because it's been so long. It's been so long. I just want to hear you talk to me, Guardian.
I'm ready. I want the next 2.5 weeks to just fly by.
I know.
We are at this point about 18. When this post will be about 17 or 18 days out from the launch, and just I don't know what else they can really throw at us. I think they've said that this is the last of the trailers, last of the story trailers at least, that we're going to get before launch. I do anticipate there being a launch trailer with some cosmetic stuff being shown, some of the activities being shown, maybe the seasonal trailer being debuted ahead of time. But other than that, man, I don't really know what else you can throw out there. We've got another big batch of TWAB coming next week with bounties, XP, currencies, etc. I assume we'll find out how the Bright Dust progression is going to be changed up. We know that's changing going forward
Mm-hmm.
to make it easier for people who only play one character to earn the same amount as somebody who plays three. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, man. 18 days, man. 18 days.
18 days.
I can't wait. Ugh. So, all right. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode of Tower Casuals.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Remember to like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you consume our show. Give us those 5 stars on the Apple Podcasts, and then leave us a nice review. I don't think we kind of promote that enough to help us grow and get more listeners. And if you have friends, tell them. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. Destiny's all about friends.
It really is.
So,
grow your fire teams.
Yes. Check out the Xbox podcast Josh and I are on, Arsenal X. Check out bossrushgames.com for all of our content. Josh, where can we find you?
As always, on Twitter at @Josh_Finn. Finn with 2 N's. And follow me for my absolutely agonizing takes over my Series X and my Series S, hoping to God that they both arrive on launch day. And then also the inevitable hell that will be the waiting room to get into Beyond Light.
Yeah. That's gonna...
I'm not looking forward to it.
No. Neither am I. But
and as a last second reminder, not to cut you out, Corey. Last second reminder for everybody: if you've listened this long, Beyond Light will be available to download on the Monday night before it releases. Servers will be shut off at 7 p.m. Pacific, I believe, and because we will have to re-download the entire game thanks to the content vault and to the new content. So just a reminder, that will be a 60 to 65 gig update, I believe, for anybody playing on any console or on PC. And then if you get a Series X or a Series S in the mail on Tuesday, you will have to download it then. So I would advise getting a external hard drive and moving it over ahead of time, since the updates will not be ready for the Series X and PS5 versions until December 8th.
Yeah, that still bumps me out. But
yeah, a little bit.
It's all right. Load times, all you really care about right now. So
the load times are definitely the biggest thing.
I mean, we've been playing at 30 frames a second for 7 years now? What's one more month? This
pretty much.
So, you can find me at IamCoreyHD on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on a plethora of other things here on Boss Rush Games. Check out our family of shows. Check out all of our content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitch. All that good stuff. I want to thank everybody so much for watching, and until next time, we love you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Eat a sandwich.
We almost made it away.